Hari Om Srimukti.
Hari Om Ganga, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, and very happy to be picking the conversation back up with you because on our last video call, we spoke about Om specifically, the mantra Om and the power of Om. And today I wanted to continue that conversation with you and start to look at this Shanti, this peace of Om. And in particular, we had Swami Satyadharma, who you supported with the Yoga Upanishad texts, and she highlighted some of these attributes of Om and Om in the heart space in the Yoga Tattwa Upanishad. So I'd love for you to share a few words related to that commentary and that text.
Okay, well, she did, last time we did talk about the verses that she gave the title, The Power of Om. And then the following verses, she gave them the title, Meditation on Om in the Heart Lotus. So this is how for the aspirant to connect with Om. And so I can just read you a few lines of the first few verses. This is the book, the Yoga Tattwa Upanishad. And they do say, as the fragrance within the flower, as the ghee within the milk, as the oil within the sesame, as the gold within the rock, so is the lotus placed in the area of the heart. Its face is bent down, its stalk is upright, its bindu is below. Within it abides manas. The lotus is expanded with the sound ah. With the sound u, it is opened up. By the sound it obtains sound, and the half syllable is still.
That really gives a beautiful picture because many of us have come into contact with the mantra Om or utilized it in our practice or in our class, but that's a really specific passage when she's referring to the heart lotus and the sound vibrations. And I know that Swami Satyadharma was very clear, both in her teaching life and in the text also, that what we really need to develop this awareness and experience of the heart lotus and this eternal sound of Om that resides there is consistent practice, meditation. That's really the only ingredient we need to come closer to that vibration within us. And, you know, it said that Om is that Shanti, that peace which cannot be disturbed. And that's a very beautiful phrase and concept to think about, that within us there is a peace that cannot be disturbed. And I know that you yourself and definitely myself have witnessed many students experiencing a level of that peace through Om chanting, but you know, again, it's disturbed, and of course in our own life. So we're still not quite in that heart lotus and in that transcendental depth that the text is highlighting, but it does give an indication of that possibility within us.
Yeah, and it is encouraging to know that it's not some fairy tale we're talking about. It's actually there once people have experienced it, and they can access that anytime.
And it changes your life when you do come into contact with that quality of peace without any other help or support or external input or situation, to really just feel that within you. It changes the whole life, the direction of the life, the karmas. everything changes. So it gives such a beautiful description in the text. I haven't heard that before about, you hear about the chakras and the lotuses and how they're facing downwards and dormant, and, the energy rising up and opening. But to hear that specifically about the A, U, and M sound and how they reverberate and that effect that it has on the heart lotus is very beautiful. Yeah, very clear and precise.
Yeah. So she did also further in the the commentary. Yeah, she did say that the lotus represents anahata chakra, which is the psychic energy center located in the heart region.
Mm.
And when it's, like you said, when it's dormant, faces downward, but it is fixed on that, the stalk that it's fixed on is actually sushumna,
Nadi.
the spiritual energy channel. So practices to activate it are very important, so that the energy, the prana, moves up sushumna.
Yeah, and this is where we really start to appreciate the yogic lifestyle and the purpose of all of the yogic systems that we've thus been exposed to, because what we're talking about here in the Yoga Upanishads really are a higher yoga, a higher, very pure quality of yoga. And like you said, in order to experience this Om at the heart and the peace of Om and the practices at the heart lotus, there does have to be an activation, an opening, a balance of that Sushumna Nadi, the stalk, and even of the lower chakras, so the energy can rise up, and then that mantra can truly be experienced here, not mentally. We begin with that mental repetition, but yeah, there are many practices that we can draw on to really purify and open this nadi and come into contact with the anahata chakra. And I know that you're a wonderful yoga teacher yourself, Srimukti, so I'd love to hear of some of your suggestions.
Well, actually, I'll go on to the practices, but also, people are still very much using in the sensory, using their senses all the time. So I do have a painting of anahata chakra, if you'd like to.
I'm sure that we would love to see.
Yeah, so I found that teaching really helpful, that people can look at that, visualize it, and then I explain a bit what it is. And they can close their eyes when they're chanting Om, and they might either have the Om symbol, they might either be saying that, or they might be remembering the anahata chakra. Well, there it is.
So how many petals have we got there?
We've got, you always ask the hard question. 12.
12 petals.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I'd love for you to share some of that symbology of your painting.
Well, there in the middle, there is the light called the Jyotir, Akhanda Jyotir, the light that never goes out. And it's not made by switching on you don't need an electrician to do it. So, and that represents also the Jivatma, that light, our own part of the soul, part of the universal soul.
That cannot be disturbed.
Okay, and then you've got the hexagonal figure of the two triangles, and that represents the air element, the Vayu.
The tattva.
Yeah. And that's related to the sense of touch. Very important. And also the two triangles, the one going upward is Shiva, or consciousness, pure consciousness, and from the pure consciousness comes the creativity, Shakti. So they're joined.
Beautiful. And I know that both you and I could spend a lot of time talking about anahata and the beautiful symbology, but just to bring it back around to what you mentioned about when students and practitioners are focusing on anahata chakra or such practices like Om in the heart space, it does really help to have that visual and to draw on yantra, because like you said, it's another element of keeping the mind steady and engaged and bringing, I mean, there's a very specific purpose that these yantras were developed and preserved, and it really helps to hold the consciousness, the more subtle than the mind, in a certain way. So they're great friends for us in the process of meditation and settling into that deeper space within us, which is ultimately what we need for practices like this, to have the energy flowing, the pathways open, the chakras, balanced and coming into that deeper space. And we have to bring the mind there. We have to bring the mind there. So the symbology and the focus for that active part of the mind is very helpful. Very helpful.
So, well, we know prana anyway, even the people are not aware of it. It's keeping us alive, our body alive all the time. So then we go into the pranayama, the practices of expanding the prana. And that gives us the access to the more subtle realms, So apart from the Om chanting and a japa, continuous chanting, you can just do the breathing at the heart space, like breathing in, feeling that area expand, holding it, breathing out, feeling it contract. And the Nadi Shodhana is very important, as I mentioned before, to get the prana flowing up Sushumna, the central channel. So, because so that's balancing the nadis. We don't want the left one to be stronger than the right, or the right one stronger than the left. It has to be central, balanced. And Brahmari also is a very good practice. The humming bee breath. Would you like to do that?
I think it's
because
okay.
That connects us with the inner sound as well.
Yeah, and it's really nice to have that perspective, because I know, for example, a lot of people, when they learn Brahmari, which we're blocking off the sound and humming, I'll give you an example just for you, Srimukti.
Thank you.
And we're focusing, and often naturally the attention is drawn right into the center of the head with the sound. But, like every practice we do, there are different dimensions and different dynamics to it. And so in this one, it's, we're remembering that unstruck sound, that sound of anahata, that is continuous, you know. So when we're focusing on the sound of Brahmari, naturally it's, you know, bringing the mind closer into that idea of this sound within us. And it's the same with a japa too. You know, a japa can be the breath rotating, as often we know it as soham in sushumna, or we can have a japa in the heart space. And a japa is that continuous sound. So these sounds are always going on. We're just not aware of them. We always have the sound of the breath in that subtle field. We have the sound of the heart in the subtle field. So just these beautiful concepts of, you know, something within us that is continuous, that is benevolent, that is the Jivatma, the light at the heart, and the peace of Om, the peace of Om. And however we are in our day-to-day life, there are so many practices, whether we're feeling very subtle, you know, we have those more subtle practices, or whether we really just need to physically feel the heart and breathe into that space and draw on some of those practices like you mentioned. So we're very lucky to have such a toolbox of techniques, and often things that we've already learnt, already are established in, we can utilize them to work towards these higher practices, texts.
And this one, even though we are focusing on the heart chakra, of course, all the other chakras are affected as well by the practice. So,
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, like you were saying with the Brahmari, the Agya chakra, and even from the lowest chakras, like in Muladhara, it's affecting that you're just feeling more secure in this practice and the knowledge, and knowing that you can go there anytime.
Yeah, it's all so interconnected. We often, you know, like to put things in compartments, but it's also interconnected, and one thing affects the next. And
yeah, like
I think
in
it's just
Manipur, you're just feeling more confident. You know, and you with that as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then Vishuddhi, you've got the sound and you've got the connection with everything. Being in the ether, in the Akasha Vayu, where everything is connected. So, happy chanting of Om.
Yes, on that note, I think I'll go and sit with the Om sound in the heart lotus, Srimukti. Very inspiring.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I look forward to talking with you again soon on our next subject and sharing more from the Yoga Upanishads.
Okay, thank you for the conversation. Thank you.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om.